10.6 has just some wrap-up stuff. The main thing I'm worried about in here are the change of base formula, but there's also some practice in here just having you use your calculator to put something in. On the problems that are calculator problems, I'm not going to do those on here since I couldn't really show it. But just to make sure you know how to type them in. For instance, number 5, for instance, when you're typing it in the calculator, you could do this. You don't even really have to put the 12.7 in parentheses, but you could put 12.7, and then you would type in that little caret symbol on your calculator, and then to raise it to the 5/2 power, you'd have to put a parentheses 5 divided by 2. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the right answer. So just kind of a word of caution about that. Look at number 9. This is log base 10 of x. If they don't write the base, it's always assumed to be 10. That's called your common log. So common log is base 10. So it's kind of like the invisible 1 in front of like a x. That means 1x. If you don't see anything written there, you assume they mean 10 here. So the common log is log base 10. So if they tell you to do log 10 of 0.8531, what you could do is rewrite it in exponential form. Log A, B is C, and then you can write I, C, a B, and that would be 10 to the 0.8531 power, and that's going to give you your answer. So this again would be a calculator problem. You would type that as 10 raised to the 0.8531. So some of this is just using your calculator and thinking about how you could do it, just in case you ever run across it, so you'd know how to do it. 11 is going to be the same way. If we get to 15 through 21, we got something a little bit different there. Let's look at for 15, we have 3 to the x equal 30. Okay. Now, how could we solve this problem? Because we don't know a number that we can raise 3 to get 30. Well, if you have something like this, you would solve this by logging each side. So solve by doing log base 10 each side. Now, you don't actually have to do base 10. You want to do something that's in your calculator, so we usually do base 10. There's also another log in your calculator that is ln, and that's log base e, and you could do that as well, but let's just stick with log base 10 since we're familiar with it, okay? So what I do is I would say log 3 to the x, and again, if you want to write the 10 in, you can, is log base 10 of 30. Okay. Now you have to use your log rules to solve this, because do you remember on this left-hand side, if you have an exponent up here, you can scoot it down. You can use the power rule to scoot that down and put it in front of that log base 10 of 3. And then on the other side, we still just have this log base 10 of 30. Now, I can get this number out of the calculator. If you look on the calculator, if you want to find out what log base 10 of 30 is, you just put log, and the calculator will open up something. You just put 30, and you hit enter, and it's going to tell you that number. But one thing you might want to do is just wait a minute on doing that, because if you want to solve for x, it's multiplied by log 10 of 3, so we could divide that out of both sides. If I wait to do all this in the calculator at one time, I'll have a little less typing going on. Okay, so x is log 30. I'm just going to leave the 10 off because that's what the answer key is going to do, over log 3. Now be careful. This is not log base 10. You cannot divide 30 by 3. This is not the same thing as the log rule. The log rule, you would have had, if you subtracted two things, you could write them as 1 and divide. You can't do that here. You want to. It looks like you should be able to, but you can't. So if you want just the answer to that, this is the answer here, okay? Now, if you want to find out what it is in the calculator, you can actually type this in and call this, you could say this is, you just type in log, you just hit the log button of 30, and then divided by the log of 3, and what you'll get is about 3.10 if you round it. Okay, it says give it to 3 significant digits. That means you'd want to have 3 values there. So even if you said, oh, it rounds up to 3.1, you would write 3.10. So that's what you're doing on these. All right, on number 35, you have log base 2 of 9, and we don't know anything. We can't say 2 to some power is 9 and figure this out. So we don't know much about log 2s, and so we can't even use our calculator to do this. So how could we get this where we could use our calculator to do this even if it's a weird number? Well, we can change the base. Right now, the base on this problem is 2. But I don't have a button to do log base 2 in my calculator, even though some of the newer ones, though, might. We're just going to assume that you don't have that, okay? Now, if I'm going to change this to a base where I can use my calculator, I could either use log, which is log base 10. We have a button for that. We also have an LN button. So you could also do the exact same thing with LN, just because it's in your calculator. It's just a different key, and you won't be doing any different work other than hitting a different key. We're going to use log base 10, though. If I want to change this over, I've written the change of base formula over here. If I've got log base 2 and 9, and let's say I want to change it to log base 10 so I can do it in my calculator. So I'm going to change it to log base 10. I'm going to write the 10 here even though I don't have to. It's understood that it's 10 if it's missing, but I'll write it in. And if you look, what you do is you take the log of the number that's written here, this 9 here, and then you put it over log base 10. You want this top and the bottom to be the same base of the old base. The old base here was A. In our case, our old base was 2. Now, what this would normally look like would be log 9 divided by log 2. And careful, that is not the same thing as log 4.5. You cannot divide 9 divided by 2 and get 4.5 and hit log 4.5. You'll get a different answer. So what I'm going to do is I just put this in my calculator as log, and again, this is log base 10 of 9 divided by log base 10 of 2. If you were using the LN button, it would just be LN 9 divided by LN 2, but let's just use our log button. And what we get if we calculated that out to the nearest, we'll just go to the nearest hundredth. That's going to be about 3.17. I'll do 37 on here too, just for as another example. For 37, you got log 340, and we don't have a calculator button for that, do we? And we don't know 3 to what power is 40. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it over to log base 10. So if you remember what you do, you could use log base 10 or you could use LN. We're using log 10 just as our examples. You always put this number on top and the base on the bottom. So it's kind of like the number that's written largely that goes on top, and then your base number goes on the bottom. So you can divide this out in your calculator. You can just type in log 40, because remember log base 10 is just the common log, so it's just the log button represents that. Log 40 divided by log 3. You cannot do log of 40 divided by 3. That's a different number. If you don't believe me, try it and see. But for 37, if you do that, you come out with 3.36.